I lived with my mother until I was 18. Her family lived nearby, and it wasn't uncommon for relatives to visit often. One of those relatives was my older cousin Alan. He came by mostly on the weekends. Alan was a druggie and a drunk, but I treated him with the same respect and trust as I would anyone else in my family. Until one day, he came over to visit my mom and get some food. I'm sitting at the kitchen table doing homework. He walks over to talk to me, and my kitten Luna flips. This is a 2-month-old little black cat, sweetest thing ever. She doesn't scratch or bite. She's perfect. But when Alan approaches, she lets out this unholy growl. The only thing I can compare it to is a dying, cornered animal. It scared me shitless. Alan keeps approaching. Luna, sitting by my feet, suddenly jumps onto the table where she knows she isn't allowed and arches her back. She puffs out her fur and snarls and shrieks at him. Alan backs off and leaves without getting his food. 2 minutes after he's gone, she's back to being my little angel. The same thing happened that next week, except this time I'm watching TV on the couch and Luna is in my lap. My other cat, Coco, is on the armrest. Alan shows up and tries to get near me. This time, both cats give an exorcist impression. I was horrified enough myself that I didn't dare move. Once again, Alan leaves immediately. Flash forward a month. I'm home alone. Alan knocks on our door and, being cautious, I answer with the chain on. He's asking for food and a shower. I tell him to come back when my mother is home. He doesn't even get a chance to respond. Luna wiggles out and begins to circle him, growling. He reaches down to grab her and she immediately goes for his hands. He has her for all of 2 seconds before she lets go and runs back inside. I slam the door and call my mom. She tells me to lock all the windows and if he knocks again, to call the police. I check outside. Alan is gone. I remain on alert until my mother gets home. He still isn't back. We go to sleep thinking all is fine. That night, my mother gets a call from her sister. Alan tried to kidnap my other cousin, Kelly. Not only that, the police went to his apartment after the attempt and found somebody in his tub, dead. Things come to light after this. My cousin, who ran before being caught, wasn't just a druggie and drunk. He was a murderer and sex trafficker, and my cats knew. Not the facts, but they sensed what he was and protected me. I'd be dead if not for them, or worse. I don't know where Alan is now. My whole family is on the lookout for him, and not to take him to court. My mom was in her early 20s, so this would have taken place in the late 70s. She lived alone in a rather crappy apartment not too far from Atlanta, and was more or less a party girl who dated a lot of guys she met at clubs. She met a guy when she was out partying at a bar. She thinks it was called Penrod's. But one night, I guess they hit it off, because they exchanged numbers and decided to go out together again sometime. This is how she described it. I had seen him around the bars quite a bit, and was smitten because he was movie star good looking. Tall, dark hair, fit, nice skin as I recall. He asked me out for that Friday and got my contact info, but I don't think we really talked much that night. At this point I should mention her cat, Tommy. He was a slim, solid black stray she had taken in, and apparently he was the best cat ever because he loved my mom tremendously. He'd wrap himself around her shoulders and go with her on car rides, hang out with her all the time, basically do a lot of really cool cat shit like that. He was also very jealous and protective of my mother, so whenever the phone rang, he'd throw himself on top of it so she couldn't take her attention away from him. He'd jump on top of her newspaper when she was reading it because it, too, distracted my mom from paying attention to him. Anyway, date night rolls around. My mom is really excited for her guy to show up because he was allegedly really hot. However, when he got there, Tommy went nuts. This cat was usually really friendly and affectionate, but he lost his shit when this guy came inside. For the short while that the guy was at my mom's apartment, Tommy glared at him, growling menacingly with huge dilated pupils and his hair standing on end. Of course, my mom was humiliated because Tommy was making her date nervous and more or less cock-blocking the shit out of them. She sat there petting Tommy, hoping he'd calm down. The date night conversation was going nowhere, and the guy started to act more and more tense and uncomfortable. My mother wasn't sure if he was weirded out by the cat or if the two of them were just not making a great connection. Either way, her date was being very quiet and awkward, but he didn't seem to want to leave either. It is also important for me to mention that my mother's date neatly dodged any questions about where the two of them would be going that night. In her words, he was non-conversational and appeared almost annoyed by me, like he didn't want to be there. I remember feeling very self-conscious and awkward, like maybe he had decided in the better lighting that I didn't look so good. It got awkward just sitting there, waiting for him to tell me what he had planned for our date, and not even talking. Then, out of nowhere, Tommy launched himself at the guy's face and just started going to town on him, screaming and tearing at his flesh like he was out for blood. My mother quickly ripped Tommy off of this guy and scolded him, apologizing profusely. All of a sudden, the guy made up some painfully obvious lie about how he suddenly needed to leave and seemed inappropriately angry at my mom. They never ended up going out or even talking again. A few days later at work, my mother was telling a coworker about her date, leaving out the part where Tommy mauled the guy's face. She more or less wanted to brag about how hot the guy was and happened to mention his name. The coworker went absolutely chalk white and explained to my mother that 2 or 3 women had recently come forth and pressed charges against that same guy for date raping them. Apparently, he had met them at some local clubs and committed the acts when he took them out on individual dates. I guess he left my mom alone because Tommy had made such a huge scene. And I guess Tommy had sensed the guy's intentions and wanted to protect my mother at all costs. Either way, he sounds like an amazing cat and could have saved my mom's life. I had been arguing with my parents about something, probably school. I don't remember about what, and really, does any 16-year-old need a reason to argue with their parents? The fight went on, and I finally just stormed out of the house because I just wanted to get away from them for a bit and jumped in my car. But for some reason, I took my dog. I had my dog, Brutus, since I was 12, just a brown and black mutt of who knows what parentage. But he was a great dog. One of his best tricks I got him to do was snarl on command. He would snarl and bark when someone knocked on the door. But I got him to the point where I could just say to him, "Who's there?" And he would instantly snarl, fangs bared, and growl a deep, rumbly growl. I loved doing it to friends when they would come over, just to freak them out. That night I took Brutus with me. I didn't want to be alone, really, just away from my parents. So I decided to go to a local park in the neighborhood and just sit quietly for a while and calm down, maybe walk the dog around. Keep in mind, this is suburbia land, mid-1980s, very Brady Bunch. Nothing bad happened in my neighborhood. So I'm at the park, which is sort of triangular shaped and slopes upwards slightly to one point. The night is creeping in, but it's dusk and still semi-light out, and the park is deserted except for me and my dog, sitting in the grass, just enjoying the night. Deserted. Until I noticed a man walking on the other side of the park. I noticed him because he was walking straight towards me. He's not with anyone. I didn't see him pull up in a car, and he's still about a football field away from me, but he's walking straight at me. I'm thinking maybe he'll call out to me, or wave his hand at some point. Maybe he's lost or something, needs directions. I don't know. But he doesn't. Slowly, steadily, he just keeps walking towards me. At some point, it creeps into the back of my mind that this is, well, not right. There's only the two of us in the park at night, and I don't know him. He shouldn't be coming over here. But I also worried that if I got up and started running, that he would start running at me. An odd sensation to have, so I sat there, just hoping that he would peel away at the last moment, change directions. Maybe he didn't see me there. Maybe he would go somewhere else. But he didn't. He kept right at me, and he's so close now I could see his clothes, which looked odd, and he wore boots of some kind, and he's big, bigger than me. But that's all I really remember. And he finally gets about 5 feet away from me, and he's not stopping. He's coming right at me, and he's still not stopping. And I lean over to Brutus and say, "Who's there?" And he snarls his most ferocious snarl and growls that growl from deep in his chest, and the man stops dead in his tracks. He pauses and looks at me, and I look at him, and Brutus is next to me snarling and growling at him. The man puts his arms up like he's surrendering. "Okay," he says. "Okay." He turns 180 degrees and starts walking that same slow, steady walk back from wherever he came from. When he gets to be what I judge a safe distance away, I get up from the grass and quick step it back to my car with Brutus, never taking my eyes off that man, jump into my car, and peel out of there as fast as I can. To this day, I have no idea who that person was or what he wanted, but I knew, just knew and still know, that I had dodged something horrible, something terrible that night, and it was because my dog saved me. This happened 10 years ago when I was about 6. I'm 16 now, female. My mother was out shopping with me. She had to get something really quick, and it was a little warm, so she locked the car, cracked the windows, and left me with our German Shepherd / Australian cattle dog mix, Bear. Bear was the sweetest dog ever. My ride until I was 2, and my protective cuddly pillow until I was 12. She was asleep in my lap when she suddenly sat straight up. That's when I realized that a man was near the car. The window was cracked enough that he could reach in. He put his hand in, trying to grab the lock and unlock my door. I guess I was at an angle where he could see me. Our windows were tinted, but the front windows you could see out of. He probably didn't see Bear until it was too late. He put his hand in, and Bear, our sweet, loving dog, bit him directly on the hand hard enough I think she broke a few fingers. He took his hand out, screamed in pain, and ran off. Bear then sat on me protectively and refused to budge until my mom got back. My mother flipped when I told her, hugged, kissed me, and hurried back home, stopping by Jack in the Box to get Bear some well-deserved hamburger patties. I have no idea what that man's intentions were, and thank God for Bear. Unfortunately, Bear passed away on Christmas Day 2012. She was the greatest dog ever and saved my life. Six months ago, I had gotten my first apartment. My mother and sister helped me move, and the first week by myself was great. I was enjoying my freedom and independence and becoming a real adult that can support herself. After I had gotten used to the place, I was starting to feel a bit lonely. Coming home after school and work every night to an empty and quiet home was something I was not quite used to. Luckily for me, my neighbor had a cat. He was, and still is, a sweet and loving tabby cat that loved attention. The neighbors weren't very good pet owners, though. They neglected the poor thing and hardly fed him, and he was literally skin and bones. So whenever the cat would come over to my place, I would feed him whatever I had in the fridge. A few weeks passed since I moved, and the neighbors decided to move. It took 3 days in total for them to pack up their stuff and leave. I noticed a couple days after they left, their cat was still wandering around outside in the rain, looking pathetic. I kept him with me for a couple of days, hoping they would come back for him. They didn't. Once I knew for sure that they wouldn't come back, I checked with my landlord to see if I could keep him. After signing some papers and paying a pet deposit, the cat was mine. I decided to name him Crybaby because he was very vocal about everything, especially for food. Crybaby had adjusted really well with his new life, He was gaining weight fast and was even more affectionate with me. With him around, I didn't feel lonely in my home anymore. Skip forward to 2 months. I was in my room sleeping. Crybaby woke me up meowing loudly in the living room. Still half asleep, I looked over to my alarm clock to see it was 4 a.m. What the fuck? He never did this before, at least not this early in the morning. Was he hungry? I got out of bed and walked to the living room. I became more alert. I didn't just hear my cat. I also heard something else that made my stomach churn. Someone was jimmying my locked front door as my cat watched. For the longest time, I couldn't move. I stood there in my living room paralyzed with fear. My thoughts raced and my heartbeat was loud in my ears. Sooner or later, if this person was lucky, they would break into my apartment and do God knows what to me and or steal everything of value. I had to do something, anything to get this person to leave. It took about a minute for me to collect my courage. I was about to do something reckless and possibly stupid. I shakily walked to the door and moved my hand to the light switch next to it and turned on the outside light. This seemed to do the trick. Once the person knew I was home, he proceeded to yell, "Son of a bitch, fuck!" After that outburst, he kicked the door a couple of times, which scared me even more, and I jumped back and fell on my ass. Then he stopped, and everything went silent. Again, I became paralyzed with fear. What was he doing? Is he still here or did he leave? Oh my God, what if he comes back? Shit. I sat there for 10 minutes straining my ears for any other suspicious sounds. I was relieved when I didn't hear anything else. Once I was in the right mind and not as panicked as I was earlier, I called the cops. I then found out I wasn't the only person who had almost had their apartment broken into. 4 other tenants that lived in the same complex I did had experienced what I had went through as well. Sadly, the cops never caught the guy, so he's still out there somewhere. And I hope to God that I never have to meet him. The one thing I am thankful for is that Crybaby is such a vocal cat that he was able to wake me up that night. Whether that guy was able to break in or not, I really do think that my cat did save me that night, and I think that I will always triple check to see if my doors are locked at night before I go to bed for the rest of my life. This incident happened in the summer of 2015. I lived by myself in a nice house inside a small town. Low crime, but still the occasional shady fucker. Anyway, at work that day on a smoke break, I watched a dog get thrown from a moving vehicle. 4-lane city traffic during the start of rush hour. I ran straight out there, scooped his little ass up, and booked it back to my workplace. He was not injured, amazingly. As a bleeding heart animal lover, I decided to take him home with me until I could figure out what to do with him. I have a large amount of cats and always have. This was my first experience with a dog that I was solely responsible for. This guy was very shy, head hung, tail tucked, jumpy, just looking at me like I was about to beat him. I was clueless on the subject of dog personalities and tendencies. I just knew they needed to be taken out frequently. His first night with me, we had been out about 15 times, as I didn't want him shitting in my house. I was having my final cigarette of the day on my porch at around 22:30. The dog was on a lead, chilling under my chair as I smoked and poked about on Reddit. I see a man walking on the sidewalk that runs by my house. He kept glancing up at me before passing. Shortly after he passed my house, he stopped, turned his heel and approached. "Hey, can you tell me where 302 Church Street is?" he asked. I told him I would search the address on my phone, which, of course, was taking a minute to pull up. He explained he didn't have a phone of his own and was attempting to get to a friend's house, taking small steps towards me the whole time. Finally, the address I summoned came up. It's exactly 2 blocks north of here, right on the southwest corner of the cross street," I told him, pointing in the direction. He kept his eyes locked on me, continuing to slowly move closer. Doggo starts growling very softly at this point. I'd forgotten he was even there until now.
Mind if I take a look at that map real quick?
He grinned sheepishly.
I'm bad with directions.
I rose from my seat, pointing again.
It's truly just 2 blocks up this road. Just follow the road. 2 blocks. The house will be on your left.
Making it very clear that I wasn't going to just hand my phone to him.
Well, can I call them? I need to let them know I'm coming,
he said, still creeping closer, extending his hand.
No,
I curtly replied.
How about text them?
Pushing forward still.
Dude, no.
I started toward my door.
Just let me see your phone.
He was visibly becoming pissed off, clearly trying to contain it and getting way too close to my porch. As a last-ditch effort of getting this dude to fuck off, I say,
You need to get the fuck out of my yard. My dog is protective. He will fuck you up.
Hell, I didn't know the first fucking thing about this dog, let alone whether he had the capacity to fuck someone up. I just hoped saying so would intimidate pushy phone guy. And like I said the magic words, Pupper springs into action. A la the wolf creature from the never-ending story, he emerges like a fucking bullet from under the chair, growling, snarling, barking his little ass off. He jerks me damn near off the porch trying to get at this guy. He sounded and acted like an 80-pound attack dog, not a 40-pound timid beagle mix. I was afraid. I didn't know if the pup would turn on me. As stated previously, at the time I knew absolutely jack shit about dogs. He backed his hindquarters into my legs, almost nudging me to the door, still carrying on, eyes locked on Phone Dude and baring his teeth. Phone Dude holds up his hands and backs off, stammers something like,
2 blocks north, yeah?
And begins walking that way. I go inside, cut off my lights and peek out the window at him. He glances at my house, assured I'm inside, turns and begins walking the completely opposite direction I pointed him in. Icing on the cake, he pulls a phone from his pocket and raises it to his ears to make a call. Doggo secured his place as a member of my family that night. He is incredibly protective of me and has frightened away another creep since this incident. He is attached at my hip and has made it known that he is grateful to be in a safe, loving home wherein he will never again become a projectile from a moving vehicle. His name now, Hank, and I truly believe that night would have ended very poorly for me had he not been there. This happened 10 years ago. I was 11 at the time. My family had a ground floor flat, and our area had just 24 to 25 families. It was highly secure since it came inside a restricted area for outsiders, so people were rather careless with security issues. No one had a dog in the whole colony, though I loved dogs. A stray dog residing near our colony gave birth to 6 new puppies and kept them in a closeted, shady place very near to our house. And we used to feed the puppies every now and then, though we didn't adopt them. No one adopts stray dogs here, but we did love them a lot. It so happened that once one of my family's office mates came to meet him for some work. He brought ice cream for me and my siblings, but I found his behavior towards me very strange. He kept looking at me again and again and gave a smile, which was very creepy. I felt very uncomfortable, but I was naive, and I thought maybe the person is too strange by nature and dismissed any bad thoughts. After a few months, 6 to 7, don't remember exactly, it was my summer vacation. My dad was out of station and my mom took my elder sister for a routine checkup. It was just me and my 5-year-old brother at home. I had locked the main door. After some time, somebody rang the bell. I saw through the peephole that it was the same person, my dad's workmate. At first I got freaked out, but then I thought maybe he isn't aware of my parents' absence. So I told him through the window, which is very near to the main door, that I can't open the door as my parents aren't home. He answered that he's aware, and that's why he came. He told me he loves me, which I found so puke-worthy now since I was just 11 back then. I refused. He started banging the door badly and tried to break the window. I got scared, but that time we had no phones and no one from our neighborhood could hear me if I shouted since even the nearby houses were also a little far off. My younger brother, who was sleeping at that time, woke up due to all the noise and started crying. I was helpless and didn't know what to do. I was on the verge of crying when I listened, and all the stray dogs were barking at him very aggressively. I went to the window and saw the dogs growling at him and slowly closing in, and before they could jump on him, he quickly got on his bike and rode away. After my mom got back, I told her everything. My dad was called immediately and police were involved. Legal actions were taken on him, but I can never thank those dogs enough. I grew up in southern Mississippi a long time ago, long before cell phones. My stepfather had a job as a trucker for a short while and was off on a job. Mom and I were home alone together often during this time, and he would be on the road, a 9 to 10-year-old girl with a slight woman, not even 5 feet tall. My mother and I were watching TV when our dog, Mandy, who was just sleeping on the floor, suddenly stood up and started growling. She went to the door and growled, then sort of woofed a little, not an actual loud bark, then went over to our window and started pacing rooms, growling and whimpering. She was just a mutt, not any kind of guard dog, and she never acted like this. My mother was instantly on alert. She said, "Sweetheart, I'm going to get my gun," a .38 pistol. "You turn off the lights in the kitchen and the dining room and look out the windows and tell me if you see anything. Stay low." I turned out the lights and then crawled over to the dining room windows, looked out. This side of the yard had our gas tank about 10 feet from the house and a giant oak tree about 10 feet to the left and past the gas tank. It was dark, but I saw a man kind of hunched over, like a cartoon character sneaking, darting from behind the tree to duck down behind the gas tank. I called out to my mother, "He's behind the gas tank, just one guy." I couldn't see anything about him, all dark clothes and a mask on and a hat. She was at the front door at that point, perpendicular to the side I was viewing, and she opened the door and fired 2 shots into the air, not even towards where he was. The guy that ducked behind the gas tank lit the fuck out. I don't think I've ever seen someone run so fast. Then my mom told me she grabbed the phone, of course, heading to go get her gun, but it was dead, so we needed to go get a phone. She said we'd go on 3 and that I should run to the car, get in as fast as I could and lock the door. She did so as well, but was holding the gun still pointed up, very clearly armed. She drove us to the neighbors in the opposite direction the guy had run and called the cops. When they came out to look over the place and all that, they let us know our phone wasn't dead. The phone line going into the house had been cut. I love staying up late. Watching television until 3 a.m. is my bread and butter. Suffice to say, this is a usual thing for me when I'm home alone. With my dad going away for work every 2 weeks and coming home for 1, it was very easy for me to get away with it while I was still in school. And for context, I live with just my dad as my mother passed away from cancer when I was only 12. But I wasn't completely alone though. I had a tuxedo cat with the most fitting moniker, Tuxedo. I've had him since I turned 16, and he's kept me company during the many long Canadian winter nights when I was by myself. His 2 favorite places to sit were the small red couch on the right side of the television and the small table that was placed in front of the large living room window. I also occupied the big red couch right in front of the television. One more important thing to note is that my dad always insisted I close the curtains on the large living room window when it became nighttime. To him, he thought it was dangerous to let people see into the house and could tempt them to break in. But in my mind, I always figured no one would be dumb enough to break into a house with lights on instead of a house with no lights on at all. So, I usually just left them open the entire 2 weeks he was away because laziness. So on this particular night, I was watching a documentary. I think it was about some couple being held hostage somewhere in Australia. These certain documentaries would be on very late, which wasn't a problem for 18-year-old me in the slightest. Tuxedo obviously felt differently as he had chosen to gaze outside the living room window instead. As it had just entered commercial break, Tuxedo started giving off soft cries as his eyes were staring in the direction of the front door, which was on the left side of the window. He usually does this if he sees someone outside at the door, which was more commonly done during the day than night for obvious reasons. It was actually very out of the ordinary for Tuxedo to do this so late. At first, I assumed it may have been an outdoor cat or a wild rabbit by the door, but I could tell Tuxedo's wail was especially worrisome, so I decided to check it out for myself. Here's the layout of my front door entrance. Tuxedo and I were on the top floor, but the entrance was a lower level that was between the top floor and the basement. There was a small staircase that went down from the top floor towards the front door, and a second small staircase that went further down away from the door to the basement. Hopefully that was a good enough explanation. So I'm standing at the top of the staircase, about to go down and open the door to see for myself, when I see a large shadowy figure in the frosted glass of my front door. I nearly collapsed to the ground when I saw this. It was definitely not my dad, and 11 p.m. at night, it was certainly not something I expected to see. I could tell whoever this was had something in the door and was trying to pry it open. At that moment, something came over me that I can't explain. It might have been the fact that I knew I had no one in the house to help me, or the fact that I felt an urgency to protect Tuxedo from this intruder, but I grabbed my cell phone off the arm of the couch and threw on the lights over the front door. The shadowy figure was now fully visible and clearly startled as our eyes met through the frosted glass, his face displayed in a jagged reflection.
"Leave now, or I'm calling the police."
I didn't even get to finish before he was dashing off my yard and into a car across the street. Before I could even tell the make and model, let alone a license plate, he was gone. All that remained was a crude crowbar on the front step. Now it's up for debate what the man was at my house for. I certainly didn't recognize him in the few seconds I looked at him. While this definitely shattered my imagined immunity from danger if the lights were still on, part of me wonders if he might have still attacked if I wasn't awake that night. One thing is for sure though, Tuxedo saved my life that night. I don't even want to imagine what might have happened if Tuxedo wasn't looking out the window that night. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you have any stories, be sure to submit them to my new email, LetsReadSubmissions@gmail.com, and I'll get to them as fast as I can. Also, if you can't get enough, for a donation as little as $1 or more on Patreon, you can have early access to MP3 downloads of all the narrations on this channel a day early. And hey, that's just more time we get to spend together. Thanks so much, and I'll see you again soon.